What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here with my friend Vincent Perriar. We've known each other for almost 20 years now.
20 years.
Yeah. But one of the key things that you've achieved in the industry is the creation of a brand called HYT, right? And this is the first watch brand that was using liquid as part of the display of the watch, but integrating, mechanical movements and complication into this, kind of the first kind of hybrid watch, right? Mm-hmm. You, in your capacity as chairman of this brand, are here today to explain to us what's going on with the brand and what we can expect for the future. So what happened with the whole bankruptcy situation?
It has been really a long journey, pressure, temperature, many different aspects that we didn't expect at the beginning. But I think it's part of the story. It's part of the story to tell when you want to consider a product like this, innovating like this with liquids and mechanics. So I think that during 5, 6, 7 years, it has been extremely challenging, but we always, we always explain the story. If there was a problem, we took the piece, we just replace it and everything. So that's the first moment of the company. The second moment is that the company tried at a certain time to open the audience and having a product which maybe speak to a broader audience, more about the philosophy of time and everything. And I think that this is maybe the moment where we lost the appeal to the collectors, to the passionate about watches, about machines, about crazy innovation. And that moment we diluted the message of HYT, and there was a point where they decided to stop the company. We can't just leave it like this. The idea is still here. We have done so many great products. We have so many great innovation and partnerships. We can't just let it go.
You have enormous goodwill. Everyone loves you, right? But when people have to make a decision for their business, right, one of the things they're going to think about is this company stable for the long term? Mm-hmm. So what can you, how can you assure them that there's going to be stability there?
I can give you some little elements to the answer. First of all, the company, and you probably know some of them, the company has been always financed by very important people. It doesn't mean that we're going to be successful. It doesn't mean we're going to be right and everything. But there is a solid ground behind HYT. And today the shareholders' situation is even stronger than before. This is my reading because I know them, because I report to my shareholders, and I know that those shareholders are extremely solid and extremely passionate. And if you compare HYT, a shareholder system or people compared to other small independent brands, I mean, we are very, very strong and very solid. So this is what I can tell you, and in a very honest way and transparent way.
Because it's super important also in terms of what you're doing to innovate product-wise and also to provide confidence, because what we can see right now is market conditions have changed, mm-hmm. right? We're not in the euphoria of the year before, or maybe even the year before that as well. You have to work hard to sell a watch today, mm-hmm. right? And probably the relationship with retailers is even more important because those are now your champions, right? They have to be your evangelists, so they have to have that confidence. Well, you came back onto the scene. I remember you did it with Davide Cerato, who was formerly from Montblanc, and before that with Tudor, and I think before that Panerai as well. And the watches, I think people found them really visually dynamic. I mean, they were stunning, right? Incredible three-dimensional moon phase indicator, and that kind of thing. But we were experiencing a moment where taste in watches were changing pretty radically, right? What we had is really, in particular, a realignment with watches with much more classic proportions. Tastes have evolved, universally, right? So if I look at two of the smartest players in, the ultra-high watchmaking game, I would look at Richard Mille and I would look at Greubel Forsey, right? Mm-hmm. And Richard Mille, with their 7201, for example, their lifestyle chronograph, I mean, the size is amazing. And what's really cool about that watch is you get incredible visual richness, which I think people are still looking for, complemented by very high finishing, but in a much more wearable size. Mm-hmm. And if you look at what Antonio Calce has done with Greubel over the last couple of years, it's precisely the same thing. It's a diminishment of the size, a real focus on ergonomics and actually lightness as well, mm-hmm. while still retaining that visual richness. Do you think HYT can play in the same field as well?
Absolutely, that's exactly the direction. In fact, we said, okay, one, we need to reduce the size. Two, we need to bring more detail on the movements, and also what I call métier d'art. So in other words, can we bring one day a dial, a closed dial, but still having the DNA of HYT with the liquid system, but not necessarily to see the pistons, for instance, that you can discover the piston on the back. You will have the same with Laurent Ferrier when you discover the tourbillon on the back. So we say we can combine the major trends that we have seen in the last 5 to 10 years, size, but also showing details, movement, finishing, and métier d'art. And by the way, by doing this, at least on the strategic level, we suddenly open a new audience because it's fittable on the wrist, and we bring some more details, and we see that there is out there, like in the world, especially I would say in Southeast Asia again, a crowd that is extremely sensitive to those details, and we need to reconnect with that trend and that we lost somehow. And 2024, we are going to stick to that trend.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, you know, that's one of the things I think is really smart because, to be honest with you, the liquid system was cool when it was launched, but it's not the most visually dynamic thing. Now, I know you've launched super visually dynamic watches like this tourbillon, which we'll talk about in a bit, but the average watch, you know, nothing moves, nothing is sort of like engaging you that much on the dial side of the watch. So the idea of bringing, for example, a chronograph, that's really clever, right?
Yeah, we bring some other technologies, disruptive technologies, yes, but yet we're still a watch and we're still talking to collectors, okay? So those guys that buying an HYT, they have other watches. It's a journey,
yeah.
Okay? So yeah, it's nice to speak about the technology and the point of difference, but it's not enough. I mean, over time, it's not enough. You need to bring some things that people are expecting or willing to see in a watch.
Okay, why don't you share with me a little bit the watches that you will be launching in the future. I know we have some cool 3D renderings as well. And amazingly, apparently this was a kind of a parallel project that was already being worked on,
yeah.
but we didn't know about until recently, right?
Me too. We had a meeting and I brought all the designers, all the guys, my friend Xavier from Paris. We had like a session where we say, okay, so what's wrong? So let's be extremely open to, you know, what's wrong. And then, so size came and other elements, of course, including the métier d'art, bringing some more details into the watch. You know, it can't be just raw and too in your face. It has to be a bit more gentle, and the way we design it. So we had that discussion, and my team of designers, Fabrice and Olivier, they said, but you know, Vincent, like a year ago, we already designed a watch where we could bring these movements, you know, like under 45 millimeter, so into a watch case, which is much more fittable on your wrist, with a system of strap where we can change the strap like in less than 1 second. So, and the fit is just perfect. And even better, they brought me the mock-up. So they brought the mock-up during the meeting. And I said, okay, wow. So we started again the discussion. We then started to reshape the design and the colors and many other details, of course, to bring this evolution of the watch. I think the most important thing is the fact that we go smaller, we go more into the details, and we are working now with a movement which is going to be much more powerful to bring some more functions. So those are the elements that we bring in. And I think that's also, if you compare to H1 back in the days in 2012, I think we're also upgrading the design in terms of, you know, like we are 10 years later, so it's not the same design. You know, it has to change, it has to evolve with details and finishings.
And how soon before those watches will materialize and we can see them?
We will see them formally, officially at Watches and Wonders 2024, and we will release, show, and deliver the watches at that moment. Okay. It's going to be April 2024.
That's smart also, because you want to be able to release it precisely at the same time you're showing them as
well.
I think that whole gap that was created in the past or was traditional in the past doesn't really work anymore. You know? I like the plan. I'm wishing you all the best on that. I would love to see the watches in the flesh, because there's, of course, like, you know, a nostalgic goodwill for this brand. I remember when you first launched it and how cool it was. We had a great time also creating an edition with Jimmy from the famous cigar bar in Singapore. Vincent, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for your frankness and your openness.
Thank you, Wei.
And I wish you all the best. And stand by, guys. We're looking forward to it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Wei.